Your seahorses are breeding right now, and there are things happening inside that tank and inside that male that most keepers have absolutely no idea about. And the terrifying part is that some of the most normal things you do every day, moving decorations, running your filtration a certain way, separating fish for a few days, could be quietly wrecking the whole thing. By the end of this video, you'll understand what's actually going on when your seahorses breed, and why it changes almost every decision you make about that tank. And I'm saving the wildest one for last, because it involves something that most people do to a sick male seahorse that can permanently end his ability to breed. So, here's what this video is actually about. The moment your seahorses start breeding, you're no longer keeping pet fish. You're managing a highly specialized reproductive system with its own biology, its own social psychology, and its own failure modes. Most of the usual aquarium advice stops applying, and the stuff that does apply, almost nobody talks about. Let's get into it. The second most important thing to understand, and we're starting here because it's the part that surprises people most, is what the male's brood pouch is actually doing. Most people imagine it as a little bag. Eggs go in, babies come out. But that's not even close to what's happening. The brood pouch functions similarly to a mammalian placenta, supporting live birth. The tissue lining the pouch physically changes during pregnancy. Blood vessels multiply, capillaries swell, and the whole structure becomes dramatically more vascularized. This thickening of the wall and elaboration of pouch structures around the implanted eggs results in a dramatic increase in vascularization. And here's why that matters for you as a keeper. This increased blood supply to the brood pouch during pregnancy makes breeding males increasingly susceptible to the formation of intravascular gas emboli, which can result in pouch emphysema and positive buoyancy problems. That condition is called gas bubble disease, or GBD, and it is one of the most common ways a breeding male seahorse dies in captivity. It's not actually a disease itself, but an umbrella term for gas-associated symptoms, and a variety of underlying problems, both bacterial and environmental, can present as GBD. So it's not something you catch from a contaminated fish at the pet store. When it crops up, it's a red flag that indicates there's something amiss with the conditions in your tank. And the reason breeding males get hit hardest is exactly because of that placenta-like transformation happening in the pouch. Breeding males are often especially susceptible to chronic pouch emphysema and GBD in general because of the placenta-like changes that occur in the lining of the pouch during pregnancy. His pouch is essentially running at maximum physiological intensity, and that makes it the exact place where gas problems form when your water conditions are even slightly off. So, what conditions trigger it? High organics, low pH, gas supersaturation in the water, and, this is the one that gets people, tank depth. Your seahorses require a minimum of 3 times their height in vertical swimming space in order to mate comfortably and help avoid pouch gas problems. Other forms of GBD are also believed to be depth-related, and the aquarium must be greater than 30 inches deep to provide any significant protection against them. So, if you've got a short tank, you're not just limiting swimming room. You're actively increasing the risk of a condition that can kill your pregnant male. And if GBD does show up, here's what you need to know. Pouch emphysema is often a symptom of an internal gas imbalance, and it will often recur until the stressor is reversed. Treating the male without fixing the water, the depth, the circulation, it almost guarantees the problem comes back. Which brings me to the thing I promised you at the start. The thing most people do wrong when they try to help. When a keeper sees their male floating, struggling with positive buoyancy, the instinct is to pop the pouch, squeeze it, get the gas out. And yes, gentle pouch evacuation done correctly can be necessary. But aggressive squeezing or traumatic handling of that highly vascular, pregnancy-transformed pouch can trigger infections and compromise future pregnancies. Be prepared to need more than one pouch evacuation, and since pouch emphysema is often a symptom of an internal gas imbalance, it will often recur until the stressor is reversed, And even if you figure out what the stressor is, it can take time for the seahorse to sort itself out. The fix is the tank, not just the fish. Now here's the part that's going to change how you think about the social side of your tank. And this one is genuinely wild. When a seahorse of either sex interacts with its pair mate, their changes in brightness are correlated and larger than when interacting with an opposite-sex stranger. Bonded pairs literally light up differently around each other than they do around any other seahorse. That's not just cute. That's a measurable biological signal of pair recognition. And research suggests part of how they recognize each other is through smell, chemical cues in the water, which means heavy chemical use near the tank, strong carbon filtration, or aerosols in the room could actually interfere with a breeding pair's ability to identify each other. And here's where it gets really consequential for aquarium management. Female seahorses no longer prefer their partner after a separation, whether it is a former partner or a recent partner. No preference for partner males may indicate that the broken pair bond cannot be repaired. So, if you move your male to a hospital tank for a few days, or separate the pair for any reason, you may come back to two seahorses who no longer recognize each other as mates. And you can't just put them back together and expect things to pick up where they left off. Males that switched mates tended to have longer interbrood intervals than monogamous males, suggesting substantial costs associated with the breaking of pair bonds. Fewer pregnancies, longer gaps between them. The pair bond isn't just a social nicety, it's directly tied to reproductive output. The same pairs mate repeatedly, with the male and female coming together every morning to greet one another, and experimental manipulation showed that pairs which greeted daily had shorter interbrood intervals and larger broods than males and females placed randomly. That daily greeting ritual isn't decorative behavior. It's what synchronizes their reproductive cycles, so the female's eggs are ready at exactly the right time to transfer into the male's pouch. Disrupt that routine, move the hitching posts, rearrange the aquascape, stress them out, and you're not just annoying them. You're breaking the biological clock that makes the whole system work. There's also this. Once the health of a partner declines, the female will switch mates, and her courtship with the new partner can take place during the pregnancy of her original partner. So if your male is visibly struggling, looking thin, not hitching, not engaging in morning greetings, your female may already be moving on, even while he's still carrying a brood. That's how finely tuned this system is. Now, the most important thing in this whole video, the thing I've been building toward, and it connects everything we've talked about. A 2025 study published in the journal Reproduction looked at exactly what's happening inside the pregnant brood pouch at the microbial level. And what they found reshapes how you should think about tank chemistry during a pregnancy. The pregnant brood pouch microbiome is compositionally distinct from the non-pregnant pouch and external skin. The pouch during pregnancy develops its own unique bacterial community, separate from everything else on the animal's body. The pouch microbiome has characteristics of resistance to colonization by pathogens, including a low species richness, high species evenness, and very low abundance of Vibrio, a genus that includes fish skin pathogens. So, the pregnant pouch is actively defending itself and the embryos from the exact bacteria that kills seahorses. In male pregnant seahorses, embryos may receive microbiomes from both parents, from the paternal brood pouch and from the maternal eggs. Both parents are co-seeding the fry's first microbiome. That means the female's health, her bacterial environment, the water she's living in, all of it feeds into what the babies are born with. And this is where your tank management decisions stop being about aesthetics and start having real downstream consequences. If you're dosing medications into the main tank while the male is pregnant, you're not just treating a sick fish. You're potentially disrupting a carefully balanced microbial environment inside his pouch that took the entire pregnancy to build. The margin for error once breeding starts is dramatically smaller than most people realize. So let's pull this all together, because there's a clear through line here. The moment your seahorses pair and the male gets pregnant, Three things change simultaneously. His pouch transforms into something closer to a mammalian uterus, making him physically more vulnerable to gas bubble problems. The pair bond becomes something you have to actively protect, because separating them even briefly can permanently reset the relationship. And the tank's water chemistry, its microbial balance, its depth, its filtration style, all of it is now directly interfacing with a pregnancy, not just with pet fish. You started this video thinking breeding was a milestone, and it is. But it's also the moment your husbandry has to level up, because everything you do from that point forward is either protecting a highly specialized reproductive system or quietly degrading it. The good news is that now you know what you're actually dealing with. If this made you rethink anything about your setup, drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know what surprised you most, because that tells me what to cover next. And if you want to go deeper on seahorse biology, the fry survival stuff especially is counterintuitive in ways that will genuinely change how you handle a birth. That video is right here.